My name is Natalie Carter. I'm 32 years old. And until 2 months ago, I thought I was building a life with a man I could trust. His name was Evan. We had been together for 2.5 years. We met at a friend's birthday party. The kind of night where nobody expects anything serious to happen. I remember standing near the kitchen island with a plastic cup of wine, pretending to laugh at a story I had already heard twice. When Evan walked in wearing a navy button-down and that easy smile of his, he was charming without trying too hard, funny without needing to be the loudest person in the room. When he asked me what I did for work, he actually listened to the answer. That sounds small. But after enough bad dates, small things start feeling huge. A month later, we were officially dating. He worked in sales for a pharmaceutical company. His job sounded exhausting to me. Client meetings, quarterly targets, conferences, business dinners, constant networking. I worked from home most days, which meant our routines fit together neatly. I made coffee in the morning while he got dressed for the office. He kissed my forehead before leaving. At night, he came home with stories about impossible clients and overpriced lunches. For a long time, it felt normal, stable, safe, and maybe that was why I didn't see the cracks forming until they were already wide enough to fall through. Last month, Evan told me he had a work trip coming up, 3-day conference. He said, standing in our kitchen while scrolling through his calendar, leaving Thursday morning, back Saturday evening. I barely looked up from my laptop. Another one. He laughed. Trust me, I'm not excited. 3 days of fake smiles, bad coffee, and hotel carpet that smells like chemicals. That sounded exactly like him. He had traveled before for work. Not constantly, but often enough that I didn't question it. He always came back with the same complaints, boring presentations, hotel food that looked better than it tasted, people pretending to care about slide decks. Thursday morning, I drove him to the airport. He was unusually chatty during the ride. He told me about the sessions he planned to attend, the clients he hoped to meet, even joked about trying to expense a steak dinner if his manager approved it. At departures, he grabbed his suitcase from the trunk, then leaned in through the open passenger window. I'll call when I land, he said. You better. He smiled, kissed me goodbye, and walked through the sliding glass doors. I watched him disappear into the crowd, never once imagining that the man I had just dropped off at the airport was already lying to me. He called around noon. It, he said. Hotels Dachant. Nothing fancy. Conference start yet. First sessions this afternoon. I'll text you later. Okay, and he did. Throughout Friday, he sent little updates. Sessions are running long. Grabbing dinner with the team. So tired already. Nothing detailed. But nothing suspicious either. Saturday afternoon. He texted that he was at the airport and his flight was on time. I picked him up that evening. He looked tired, a little distant. But I told myself that was normal. After 3 days of conferences and forced conversations, we ordered takeout, watched half a movie, and went to bed early. Sunday was ordinary, painfully ordinary. Looking back, we did laundry, bought groceries, argued gently over which brand of pasta sauce was better. He kissed my shoulder while I was folding towels and asked if I wanted to order Thai food later. There was nothing dramatic. No lipstick on a collar, no mysterious perfume, no late-night confession, just a quiet man pretending to be tired. By Monday evening, I had almost forgotten the trip altogether. Evan was in the shower, and I was lying in bed, scrolling through social media, when his company's page appeared in my feed. They were active online, always posting birthday lunches, charity events, team updates, motivational quotes no one asked for. A post from Friday caught my eye. Quiet week at headquarters as we prepare for next month's major conference. No team traveled this week. Everyone is here working hard on exciting new projects. I read it once, then again, then a third time. No team traveled this week. Evan had supposedly been at a conference from Thursday through Saturday. My hand went cold around my phone. At first, my brain tried to protect me. Maybe the page meant no corporate team had traveled. Maybe sales didn't count. Maybe the social media person had made a mistake. Maybe the conference wasn't officially announced. Maybe. There are so many ways to explain something away when the alternative is heartbreak. I screenshotted the post. I didn't even know why. I just knew I needed proof that I had seen it. When Evan came out of the bathroom, steam followed him into the bedroom. He was toweling his hair, relaxed and comfortable, like nothing in the world had shifted. "What's wrong?" he asked. I locked my phone. Nothing. Just work stuff. He climbed into bed beside me and scrolled through his own phone for a while. Then he turned off his lamp. I stayed awake for another hour, staring at the ceiling. The next morning, I decided to ask him casually. No accusation, no drama, just curiosity. He was making coffee when I said, "Hey, how was the conference last week? You didn't really talk much about it." His back was to me. "It was fine," he said. Same old. Lots of talking. Not much substance. "Did you learn anything useful?" "Not really. Mostly networking." I watched his shoulders. "Who all went from your company?" For 1 second, he paused. It was tiny. Almost nothing. But I felt it. "The usual people," he said. "A few from sales. A couple from marketing." "That's nice. Must be good to get out of the office with the team." "Yeah." He handed me a mug of coffee. Still not quite meeting my eyes. "I've got to get ready." And then he left the kitchen. That evening, I checked his company's page again. There were new photos from Monday and Tuesday. Team lunch. Someone's birthday celebration. People holding cupcakes and smiling under fluorescent lights. I recognized a few faces from company parties. And there was Evan. Monday. 12:30 M. Sitting at a table with 4 other employees, laughing at something off camera. So he had come back Saturday. That part was true. But the Friday post stayed, lodged in my mind, like a splinter. No team traveled this week. Wednesday evening. We were watching TV when his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his whole body changed. Only for a second, his shoulders tightened. His jaw locked. His thumb hovered over the screen before he picked it up. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said too quickly. "Just work stuff." "Anything important?" "Nah. Just a coworker, being dramatic." He put the phone face down on the couch. I kept my eyes on the television. But I wasn't watching anymore. That was when the fear became real. Thursday morning. He left earlier than usual. "Early meeting," he said, kissing my cheek near the door. I worked from home that day, answering emails, taking calls, doing everything I could not to stare at the screenshot saved in my phone. Around 2 in the afternoon, I received a message request on social media. The profile picture was a landscape, no face. The name meant nothing to me. The message said, "I know this is random, but I work with Evan. We need to talk. Can I call you My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. For a full minute, I only stared at the words. Then I typed, "Who is this?" The reply came almost instantly. "I'm a coworker. I can't say much over message. Please, can I call you? It's important." My fingers felt numb as I sent my number. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. "Hello." A woman's voice answered. Nervous. Careful. Like she had rehearsed the words and still didn't know how to say them. "Hi. Natalie. I'm sorry to contact you like this. I went back and forth all morning. But I can't stay quiet anymore." My throat tightened. "What is this about?" She inhaled shakily. "Evan's trip last week. He told you it was a work conference." "Right. Yes. There was no conference." The room went silent around me. "The company didn't send anyone anywhere last week." She continued. "That post on Friday wasn't a mistake. Nobody traveled." I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. "Then where was he?" There was a pause. "He went with someone. A woman from the office. They've been hooking up for about 2 months. Maybe longer. Last week, they took a trip together. I don't know exactly where. But it wasn't work." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Are you sure?" "I'm positive. I've seen them together." At first, I thought maybe they were just flirting. But it's more than that. I heard them talking about the trip the week before. He said he had the cover story handled. She laughed and said you'd never suspect anything. My eyes burned. But no tears came. "Not yet. Why are you telling me?" "Because it's wrong," she said quietly. "I've met you at office events. You were kind to me. You seemed like a good person. You don't deserve to be humiliated like this." I pressed my hand against my chest. Like that could stop whatever was breaking inside me. "Who is she?" The woman hesitated. "I probably shouldn't say her name, but she's in his department. Tall, polished, always in heels. Drives a white convertible, acts like she owns every room she walks into." I knew exactly who she meant. Marisa. Evan had introduced her to me at a company party the year before. She had barely acknowledged me. Then, spent the rest of the conversation laughing too loudly at everything Evan said. Back then, I had told myself she was just confident. Now I wondered how many truths I had politely ignored. "What do you want me to do with this?" I asked. "That's up to you. I just thought you deserved to know." Then she added, "Softa. I'm really sorry." The call ended. I sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at nothing. That night, Evan came home around 7. Cheerful and warm. Talking about a client call. Asking about my day. Kissing me like he hadn't been slowly destroying us for months. And I played along. I asked questions. I smiled at the right moments. I even laughed once. Inside, I felt like I was standing outside my own body, watching a stranger pretend to be loved by a man who had already betrayed her. I didn't confront him, not that night, because now I knew one thing for certain. Evan could lie without blinking. And before I ended everything, I needed to know just how far he was willing to go. Friday morning. I waited until Evan left for work before I did something I had always promised myself I would never do. I searched through his things. Even now, looking back, I'm not proud of it. Trust is supposed to mean you don't have to invade someone's privacy. But trust had already been destroyed. I just hadn't admitted it out loud yet. The apartment was silent after the front door closed behind him. His coffee mug was still sitting in the sink. His cologne lingered faintly in the hallway. Everything looked exactly the same as it had every other Friday morning, except nothing was the same anymore. I started with his dresser. T-shirts, workout clothes, receipts. Nothing unusual. Then I checked the closet. Shoe boxes, winter jackets, old backpacks. I almost gave up. Then I noticed a black gift bag tucked behind a stack of storage bins in the very back corner. It looked intentionally hidden. My pulse quickened. I carefully pulled it forward. Inside was an expensive men's watch. It was sleek. Silver. Clearly designer. I didn't recognize the brand immediately, but I knew enough to tell it wasn't cheap. Beneath the watch box sat a folded white envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten card for my favorite travel companion. Until next time. No signature. There didn't need to be one. I stared at the words until they blurred together. Favorite travel companion. Not conference partner. Not coworker. Travel companion. I imagined Evan smiling as he accepted that gift. I imagined whoever bought it, watching him open the box. I imagined them laughing together. Somewhere that wasn't a conference room. For the first time since the anonymous phone call, tears finally came. Quiet tears. The kind that don't make noise because you're too stunned to sob. After a minute, I forced myself to breathe. I took several photos, the watch, the card, the envelope. Then, I carefully put everything back, exactly where I'd found it. If he realized I'd been looking, he'd only become more careful. I wasn't ready for that. I grabbed my keys and left. I couldn't stay inside that apartment another minute. I drove aimlessly before stopping at a small coffee shop downtown. The smell of roasted coffee usually made me feel calm. Not that day. I ordered without really hearing myself speak. The barista smiled. I smiled back automatically. It's strange how the world keeps moving while yours is falling apart. People laughed around me. Students typed on laptops. Someone celebrated a birthday near the window. Meanwhile, I was trying to understand how the man I'd imagined marrying had apparently built an entirely different life behind my back. Was every I love you real? Every vacation? Every lazy Sunday morning? Or had I simply been convenient? My phone buzzed. It was Even. "Wanna grab dinner tonight? Maybe that Italian place you like downtown." I stared at the message. He was planning a romantic evening with me, while hiding another relationship. The hypocrisy almost made me laugh. Instead, I replied, "Sure." 7. His answer came almost immediately. "Perfect. Love you." I read those 2 words. Love you. A sentence that suddenly meant absolutely nothing. I locked my phone without responding. That evening, he picked me up from work, like nothing had happened. He smiled, opened my car door, asked how my meetings had gone. He looked exactly like the man I'd fallen in love with. Maybe that's what hurt the most. Liars don't always look like villains. Sometimes they still remember your coffee order. Sometimes they still hold your hand. Sometimes they still ask if you're cold. The restaurant was busy. Candles flickered between the tables. Soft jazz floated through the speakers. A couple nearby celebrated an anniversary. Another couple argued quietly over dessert. Life carried on around us. "So," Evan said after ordering wine, "I've been thinking, oh, what if we planned a trip next month?" I almost laughed. "A trip? Yeah. Just us." He smiled warmly. "Maybe somewhere on the coast. The beach sounds nice." "The beach?" I repeated. The irony was almost unbearable. He continued talking. Hotels, restaurants, maybe surfing, maybe renting bikes. Every sentence felt surreal. He had literally just returned from a romantic getaway with another woman. Now he wanted another vacation with me. "You've been quiet lately," he finally said. He reached across the table and gently squeezed my hand. "Everything okay?" There it was. The perfect opportunity. I could have pulled out my phone, shown him the company post, told him about the anonymous call, shown him the photographs of the watch, asked him who Marissa really was. Instead, I smiled faintly. I'm just tired. You've been working too hard. Probably. We should relax more. Maybe. He smiled again, satisfied, like he'd successfully steered us away from danger. I watched him sip his wine. He never looked nervous, never hesitated. If anything, he seemed relieved. That realization frightened me more than the affair itself, because lying wasn't difficult for him anymore. It had become natural. We drove home afterward. He talked about work nearly the entire drive. I barely heard any of it. That night, he fell asleep within minutes. I lay awake beside him. The room was dark, except for faint moonlight slipping through the curtains. I listened to his breathing. Steady, peaceful. Meanwhile, my own mind replayed every memory from the past few months. Every late meeting. Every canceled dinner. Every unexplained text. Every time he'd smiled while looking down at his phone. How many signs had I ignored because I trusted him? Or maybe I hadn't ignored them. Maybe I'd simply chosen the explanation that hurt less. Saturday morning, I woke before sunrise. Sleep had become impossible. I quietly slipped out of bed, made coffee, and opened my laptop. I went back to his company's social media page. This time, I wasn't looking at last week. I scrolled further. 1 month, 2 months. Nearly 6 weeks earlier, I found a photo from an office happy hour. I remembered seeing it when it had first been posted. At the time, it hadn't meant anything. Now I enlarged it. There was Evan, near the back of the room. Marissa sat beside him. Their chairs were much closer together than everyone else's. She was laughing. His head leaned toward hers. One of his hands rested gently against the small of her back. It wasn't an obvious embrace. It wasn't scandalous. Most people probably wouldn't notice it. I noticed it now. Once you know someone is lying, every old memory changes shape. What once looked innocent suddenly feels obvious. I kept scrolling. Another office barbecue. Another fundraiser. Another birthday lunch. Again and again. They somehow ended up standing together, looking at each other, sharing private smiles. Nothing that proved an affair. Everything that suggested one. Behind me, I heard the bedroom door open. Evan walked into the living room wearing sweatpants, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Morning. Morning. He kissed the top of my head. What are you doing? Just browsing. He poured himself coffee. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Then I decided it was time, not for the truth. Just another test. Evan. Yeah. Can we talk about your conference last week? His shoulders stiffened. Barely. But I saw it. What about it? I saw another post from your company. He frowned. So, they said nobody traveled. They were wrong. Really? Yeah. I thought you said people from sales and marketing went. They did. Who exactly? He shrugged. I don't remember everyone. I looked at him. You spent 3 days with them. I know, but you don't remember their names. He laughed awkwardly. It wasn't exactly important. I remained calm. Seems like something you'd remember. He set his mug down, a little harder than necessary. Why are you interrogating me? I'm asking questions. There's a difference. His expression darkened. Natalie. What? Stop questioning me. His voice was firmer now. It was a work trip. Nothing else. The room fell silent. I studied his face. He looked irritated, not guilty, almost offended that I would even ask. Finally, I nodded. All right. I turned back toward my laptop. For several long seconds, he didn't move. Then he quietly walked back into the bedroom. A minute later, I heard drawers opening, closet doors sliding, restless movement. He wasn't angry. He was nervous. My phone vibrated. It was another message from the anonymous coworker. Did you talk to him? I typed back, a little. Her reply appeared almost immediately. Is he still lying? I looked toward the closed bedroom door. Then, back at the screen. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Then, another message. I'm sorry. Natalie. If you need proof, I can probably get photos. I stared at the words. Photos. Evidence. Confirmation. Weeks earlier, I would have thought that was exactly what I needed. Now, I wasn't so sure. I already had the company post. The anonymous phone call. The hidden gift. The handwritten card. His nervous reactions. His contradictions. His refusal to answer simple questions. The evidence wasn't the problem anymore. The problem was something much deeper. I wanted him to choose honesty. Just once, without being cornered, without photographs, without undeniable proof. I wanted him to look me in the eyes and tell me the truth because I deserved it. Instead, he kept choosing the lie, and with every lie he told, something inside me quietly let go of the future I had imagined for us. By Saturday afternoon, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to expose everything I knew. Not yet. I was going to give him one final chance. One last opportunity to reveal the truth on his own. I had no idea that less than 24 hours later, I would walk through our apartment door and hear the words that would end our relationship forever. Sunday morning arrived with an eerie kind of calm. The kind that feels almost beautiful until you realize it's only the silence before a storm. Evan was already awake when I walked into the kitchen. He smiled, as though nothing had changed. Morning. Morning. He poured me a cup of coffee without asking, just like he always did. For a split second, watching him perform such an ordinary act nearly broke me. How could someone still remember exactly how much cream I liked, while forgetting what loyalty looked like? We ate breakfast together in near silence. He scrolled through sports headlines. I stared out the window. Finally, I said, I think I'm going to spend the day with Claire. Claire had been one of my closest friends since college. Evan knew her well enough not to question it. That sounds nice, he said. You'll probably be gone most of the day. Yeah. What about you? He shrugged casually. I've got some work to catch up on. Of course you do. I forced a smile. Don't work too hard. I won't. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. The gesture felt foreign now, like watching an actor perform a scene he'd memorized 100 times. Around 10 o'clock, I grabbed my purse and left. I didn't drive toward Claire's neighborhood. Instead, I headed across town to a quiet park overlooking a small lake. I parked beneath a large oak tree and turned off the engine. The world outside was peaceful. Children rode bicycles. Couples walked their dogs. Someone sat on a bench feeding ducks. Inside my car, everything felt unbearably heavy. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel. Maybe I should just end it. Maybe I didn't need another confrontation. Maybe I already knew enough. Then my phone buzzed. The anonymous coworker. My heart immediately started racing. I opened the message. He's at your apartment. Another message followed almost instantly. Marissa just went inside about 20 minutes ago. Then another. I live 2 buildings over. I saw her park. I'm so sorry. Natalie. I stared at the screen. There it was. The final piece. The opportunity he thought he had. He believed I was gone all day. He hadn't even waited an hour. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I started the engine. The drive home felt strangely slow. Every red light seemed personal. Every passing car, an obstacle between me and the truth. I wasn't crying anymore. That surprised me. The tears had dried up somewhere between the anonymous phone call and the hidden watch. Now all that remained was clarity. When I reached our apartment complex, I parked several buildings away instead of in my usual space. If either of them happened to glance outside, I didn't want them seeing my car. The parking lot was quiet. A warm breeze moved through the trees. Birds chirped as if nothing extraordinary was happening. I walked toward the building with measured steps. Each one felt heavier than the last. My apartment key felt unusually cold in my hand. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could. The living room was empty. A blanket lay folded over the couch. 2 coffee mugs sat on the kitchen island. One was mine, the other wasn't. I closed the door without making a sound. Then I heard them. Laughter, coming from the bedroom. His laugh. Her laugh. Comfortable. Relaxed. Intimate. I slowly walked down the hallway. Every heartbeat echoed inside my ears. The bedroom door wasn't fully closed. It was open just enough for me to see. Through the narrow gap, they were sitting on the bed, fully clothed. Thank God for that. Not because it changed anything. Because I wasn't sure I could survive seeing more. Marissa sat close beside him, close enough that their knees touched. Evan had one arm resting around her shoulders. She held up her phone, showing him something on the screen. They laughed again. Then I heard her voice. I still can't believe she bought the Confront story. Evan laughed. I told you she would. My stomach twisted. She's too trusting. He continued. Makes everything easier. Marissa smiled. I almost feel guilty sometimes. He shook his head. Don't. You've told me 100 times you're unhappy. I know. She leaned against him. I just wish this whole thing wasn't so complicated. That was enough. I pushed the bedroom door completely open. It slammed against the wall. The laughter vanished instantly. Both of them jumped. Marissa nearly dropped her phone. Evan's face drained of color. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Finally, I broke the silence. Please. My voice sounded much calmer than I felt. Don't stop on my account. They stared at me, frozen. It's fascinating hearing what you both say when you think I'm not around. Natalie. Evan stood so quickly. The bed shifted beneath him. It's not what it looks like. I actually laughed. A short, humorless laugh. No. I slowly looked around the room. It looks like my boyfriend spent months lying to me. I looked at Marissa. It looks like the woman he took on a fake business trip is sitting on my bed. Then back to Evan. And it sounds like the two of you have been making jokes about how easy I am to fool. So, explain? Neither of them spoke. Marissa quietly stood. She wouldn't even look at me. I should go. Evan reached toward her instinctively. No. Wait. I stepped aside from the doorway. She's right. I looked directly at her. You should leave. She hurried past me without saying a word. Her expensive perfume lingered in the hallway long after the front door closed behind her. Then it was just us. Silence settled over the apartment. The same apartment where we'd celebrated birthdays, decorated for Christmas, watched movies curled beneath blankets, planned our future. Now it felt like a stranger's home. Evan rubbed both hands over his face. Natalie. Don't. He lowered them slowly. I can explain. Please don't insult me. I never wanted you to find out like this. I stared at him. That's your concern. You lied. I know. You looked me in the eyes every single day. I know. You let me drive you to the airport. I know. You called me from your fake conference. His shoulders sagged. I know. You came home. You kissed me. You told me you loved me. You slept beside me. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. No. I shook my head. You're sorry because I caught you. He flinched. I was going to tell you. When? He hesitated. I don't know. Next week. Silence. Next month. Nothing. After another fake conference. He looked down. When? My voice finally cracked. When exactly were you planning to tell me? He couldn't answer. Because there wasn't an answer. There never had been. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. For a long moment. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked the question that had haunted me since the anonymous phone call. How long? He closed his eyes. About 2 months. I nodded once. And the trip? He swallowed. Yes. It was with Marissa. Yes. So every conversation after that. He whispered. Was a lie. The words echoed through the room, not because they were loud, because they were finally honest. Ironically, the first completely truthful thing he'd said in weeks. I looked around the bedroom, our bedroom, the framed vacation photos, the books we'd bought together, the blanket my mother had given us for our first Christmas, as a couple. Suddenly, none of it belonged to us anymore. It belonged to a relationship that no longer existed. I stood. You need to leave. He looked up. What? I want you out. Natalie, I'm done. Please. No. I love you. Those 3 words landed like stones. You don't get to say that anymore. He started crying openly. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. A mistake is buying the wrong birthday gift. This, I looked directly into his eyes, was thousands of decisions. You chose to text her. You chose to lie. You chose to book that trip. You chose to kiss me afterward. You chose every single day to keep lying. He covered his face. I know. I don't care where you go. Stay with Marissa. Stay with a friend. Get a hotel. But by tonight. I took a slow breath. I want you out of my apartment. He nodded weakly. There was nothing left to argue. Because we both knew the relationship had ended long before I opened that bedroom door. That door had simply allowed me to witness its final moments. Evan didn't argue. For the first time since I'd known him. He seemed to understand that no explanation could undo what had happened. He quietly walked to the closet and pulled out a suitcase. The same suitcase I'd watched him wheel through the airport before his fake conference. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Neither of us spoke while he packed. The apartment felt painfully quiet. Every zipper sounded louder than it should have. Every hanger sliding across the closet rod echoed through the room. I stood in the living room, arms folded, staring out the window. Part of me wanted to cry again. Another part wanted to scream. Instead, I felt strangely empty. When someone shatters your trust completely, there comes a point where heartbreak gives way to exhaustion. After nearly an hour, Evan carried 2 suitcases into the hallway. He looked older somehow, defeated. I'm sorry. Natalie? I didn't answer. I know you probably hate me. Still nothing. I never wanted to hurt you. That finally made me turn around, but you did. He lowered his head. I know. I don't even recognize the person standing in front of me anymore. He looked as though he wanted to say something else. Instead, he quietly picked up his bags. I'll come back for the rest later. You'll arrange a time first. He nodded. I will. A few seconds later, the front door closed behind him. The apartment became completely silent. I stood there listening. No footsteps. No keys. No television. No breathing besides my own. It was over. I slowly walked into the bedroom. His side of the closet was half empty. His toothbrush was gone. The dresser drawer, where I'd found the hidden gift bag, now looked strangely ordinary. I sat on the edge of the bed. Then, for the first time all weekend, I allowed myself to cry, without trying to stop. Not because I wanted him back, because I was mourning the future I'd imagined. The wedding that would never happen. The children we'd talked about having. The growing old together. Those dreams hadn't died that day. I realized they had been dying quietly every time he'd chosen another lie. The following morning, the first thing I did was call the property manager. By that afternoon, the locks had been changed. Holding the new key in my hand felt symbolic, not just because it secured the apartment, because it marked the first boundary I'd set for myself in a long time. That evening, my phone buzzed. It was the anonymous coworker. I heard what happened. I'm really sorry. Natalie. I smiled sadly. Then I replied, thank you. A minute later, she answered, I wasn't trying to ruin your relationship. I know. You helped me stop living inside a lie. She never tried to convince me to hate Evan. She never gossiped. She simply gave me the truth when she believed I deserved it. For that, I would always be grateful. During the first week after the breakup, Evan called 5 times. I never answered. He sent long text messages. The first apologized. The second blamed stress. The third insisted he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. The fourth claimed he still loved me. The fifth simply read, please let me explain. I blocked his number after that. There was nothing left to explain. About a week later, the coworker reached out again. I thought you should know. Marissa's boyfriend found out too. Apparently she hadn't been cheating only with Evan. She'd also been lying to another man. The moment he learned the truth, he ended their relationship immediately. I sat staring at the message. 2 relationships destroyed. Months of lies. Countless people hurt. For what? Secret hotel rooms. Stolen weekends. Temporary excitement. It suddenly seemed incredibly small. Mutual friends eventually began reaching out. Most were careful. Some awkwardly asked whether the rumors were true. Others simply wanted to check on me. One conversation stayed with me. A friend hesitated before saying, I thought you should know. Evan's been telling people you were controlling. I actually laughed. Controlling. He said you questioned everything he did. I shook my head. Interesting. According to him, my asking about a fake conference somehow justified months of deception. Classic. Rewrite history. Make the betrayed partner seem unreasonable. I didn't bother defending myself. The people who truly knew me didn't need convincing. Everyone else wasn't worth chasing. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my own life. I threw myself into work, accepted projects I'd previously turned down, started cooking again, called friends I hadn't seen in months. Slowly, the apartment stopped feeling haunted. 3 weeks after the breakup, I opened every window in the apartment. I packed away photos of us, folded the blanket we'd shared, rearranged the furniture. The bedroom looked different, almost immediately. Not happier, just Mina. One afternoon, while organizing the closet, I found the watch again. I'd forgotten about it after everything else happened. I held it for several moments. It wasn't just an expensive watch anymore. It was proof. Proof that someone else's affection had once been hidden inside my home. I listed it online. It sold within a few days. The money sat untouched in my account. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. 2 months passed, surprisingly quickly. One evening, on a whim, I signed up for a beginner kickboxing class. I needed somewhere to put all the anger I'd been carrying. The first class nearly destroyed me. Every muscle ached. I could barely lift my arms afterward. But, for one glorious hour, I hadn't thought about Evan once. So I kept going. Eventually, I started recognizing familiar faces. After class, a few of us began grabbing coffee or dinner nearby. Nothing dramatic. Nothing forced. Just ordinary conversations. Ordinary people. Exactly what I needed. One afternoon, the apartment concierge called my phone. Ms. Carter. Yes, there's a gentleman downstairs asking to see you. My stomach tightened. Who? Evan. I closed my eyes. He says he'd just like 5 minutes. I looked around my apartment. Fresh paint covered the bedroom walls. A new bookshelf stood in the corner. Sunlight filled the living room. Everything finally felt peaceful again. No. The concierge waited politely. Please tell him I'm not available. Of course. A few minutes later, he called again. He left a handwritten note. You can throw it away. Are you sure? Yes. I never read it. Whatever words filled those pages. They belonged to someone who'd had countless opportunities to tell me the truth when it actually mattered. Not long afterward, the anonymous coworker and I finally met in person. Her name was Rachel. She admitted she'd been terrified to contact me. I kept thinking maybe I should stay out of it. She said over coffee. What changed your mind? She stirred her drink thoughtfully. I watched him lie to your face at work events. She looked down. It made me feel guilty. I smiled gently. You didn't destroy my relationship. He did. Over the following weeks, Rachel occasionally updated me, not because I asked, but because our lives had naturally crossed paths. Apparently, Evan and Marissa had tried dating openly after everything came out. It lasted less than a month, without secrecy, without stolen moments, without deception. Their relationship fell apart almost immediately. Then came another surprise. Evan's performance at work declined badly. He missed deadlines, lost clients, stopped showing up prepared for meetings. Eventually, the company let him go. Not because of the affair, human resources couldn't punish him for that, but because he'd simply stopped doing his job well. Karma doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it simply waits until people begin destroying themselves. As for me, life slowly became lighter. I even agreed to go on a date with a man I'd met through kickboxing. His name was Daniel. Kind, patient, honest. We weren't rushing into anything. After what I'd been through, neither of us saw the point in pretending. One evening, Daniel asked me, after everything that happened, is it hard to trust people? I thought about it for a moment before answering. No. He looked surprised. What Evan did says everything about who he is. I smiled softly. It doesn't get to decide who everyone else is. Today, I'm still 32. Still figuring life out. Still healing in small ways I don't always notice. But my home feels like mine again. The walls no longer remind me of betrayal. They remind me that I survived it. That watch I sold eventually paid for something meaningful. Next month, I'm taking my first solo trip to the coast. I'm planning to watch the sunrise over the ocean, learn how to surf, and spend a few days listening to waves instead of lies. For a long time, I believed losing the man I loved was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. The worst thing would have been spending years with someone who smiled in my face while treating my trust like a joke. Walking away hurt, but staying would have hurt forever. And if there's one lesson I carry with me now, it's this: the truth may break your heart for a while, but lies will slowly break your soul.